Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us here at USA Global TV and Radio. We proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Our show today is the United Kingdom, episode 131. We are thrilled that we are continuing to provide all kinds of information about cultures and geography and people from across the world. We have 2 YouTube channels, and I'm excited to announce that USA Global TV and Radio YouTube channel has now just passed 914,000 views for this year so far. We are ahead of last year already. And our other YouTube channel, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, we have just passed 35,000. So we weren't really doing anything with that channel. So we thank you for subscribing to both. Let's get on with the show. Joining us from our Virginia Bureau in the United States is the lovely, the vivacious, the super successful DIANN FLOYD Bain. Let's welcome her and find out what she's been up to. Hello.
Hi, it's great to see you.
Great to see you as well. And we met in person, as we know. We had a great time, and I'm sure we'll be meeting again sometime in the future. And I know you have a lot of projects that you're working on. Tell us a little bit about them.
So much is happening, actually. As far as fun family things, when I'm up here in Virginia, I'm with my kiddos who are all grown up and their families. And we have a home here, and I've been pulling weeds and chopping down bamboo with my husband and working really hard in the gardens. And then as far as professionally, it's the fall, so everything kicks off with interviews and writing, and I'll be announcing pretty soon some books coming out. So I'm really excited about this coming, I call it the school year because it's not a new year, but it is the school year.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations to you as always. And also joining us from our UK Bureau in Scotland, it's Mr. Simon Macdonald, who comes and shares a phenomenal presentation with us each and every week. He also has his own show, The Scottish Connection. So we're thrilled to have him. He is a keynote speaker. He is a celebrity chef. He is an author, and he is a really cool person. How about that? Yes, welcome.
Hello, it's Wednesday again, the best day of the week. It's just nice to be back. Yes, busy times here. The weather just now, well, for the month of August, Scotland has had, or this part of Scotland, should I say, has had 250% of its average rainfall for August. So it's been a bit damp here, shall we say.
Wow.
And it started off sunny this morning, and I thought, oh, yippee, this Wednesday it's got to be sunny. And no, sorry, the rain started again.
Yeah, I hear you. The sun is shining and it's pouring. It's very interesting. But let's welcome our special guest, someone who started this show with us from the very beginning. He is a global broadcaster with over 1 billion followers, and he also has his own shows here with HELENA CHARD, the Royally Rich Lifestyle Show, which is brought to us by the British School of Excellence, and Royal Breaking News. And soon there will be another show coming, which we will not announce right now. But Mr. Ian Pelham Turner, welcome.
Yay!
Yay!
How are we all?
Well, I'm so
Great.
glad everyone's together. It's terrific. And hello to HELENA CHARD, who is out on business and not able to join us from today. So let's get the show started. Simon, you were just talking backstage that there's some things going on in the UK. Any updates that you'd like to provide? And then we'll go over to Ian for maybe some royal news.
Oh, there's all sorts going on just now. Our government is making themselves very unpopular with the elderly of our population, with the pensioners. They're cutting our heating allowance altogether, and they've got 1-2 other things in the pipeline as well. Again, also aimed at pensioners. So obviously they don't want us here. So there we go. But that's it. No, busy times for me as well. I've just next, not this weekend, but next, I've got the Clyde Built Festival in Glasgow, which is a huge, big festival. I did last year as well. It's a fantastic event. Hundreds and thousands of people turn up for this one. There's all sorts of things going on, boat racing on the River Clyde outside, and lots of events happening on shore as well. And I've been invited to be their celebrity chef again this year, and cook for the masses. So thoroughly looking forward to it. It's great fun. It's second most favourite one to being here on a Wednesday.
Right.
Not to say that, haven't I?
What's going to be cooking? What are you making?
Been working really primarily on using fish and locally caught fish, caught on and the Clyde itself. So there'll be salmon, there'll be langoustine and lobster and scallops and haddock and all sorts of different things. So I've got a whole repertoire of dishes to come up with for all that. So started getting all the prep work done already, because my schedule next week's pretty busy as it is. So looking forward to it. Yes.
Phenomenal. Congratulations. That's wonderful. Absolutely.
My mouth is watering already.
Well, you've got time to book a flight.
This is true.
Oh, look at us.
Yes,
now.
Ian, there'll be smoked salmon as well.
Ian, how's life over there?
Sorry, say this again.
How are you doing, Ian? What's up in your world?
What's up in my world? Well, I'm glad Simon first of all mentioned the pensioners, because we are both pensioners, Simon and I. Basically, I'm causing a huge row in Britain.
Good for you.
I've denounced the new Prime Minister as a liar.
Wow.
And I think the reality again is because in reality, what's been happening is that winter fuel allowance, which is a very important allowance for people, for really many millions of pensioners of my age and older who don't have my facilities, that they live underneath blankets and hot water bottles during the winter because they can't afford the energy prices to actually eat or heat. And now they've gone and taken this subsidy away as well. It's going to make life even worse. So I've decided to do two things, first of all. I'm going to get in contact with an organisation called Age UK, who have millions of followers who are pensioners. And I want to create a wall of shame. I want 1 million people to take photographs of themselves under blankets. And then we're going to create a wall of shame to actually sort of show exactly what this Labour Party have done. But then secondly, I don't think we should leave it at that either. So I've asked all the cabinet ministers who are on $200,000 to $300,000 a year. Basically, a pension gives you close on about $1,000 a month. So I'm asking all the cabinet ministers to give away all their money, all their wages, all their different cars, their offices, their secretaries and everything, all the expenses that have been created for them. So it gives them about $300,000 or $400,000 per person. Give it all back and just live on $1,000 a month like we have. This is supposed to be the party of fairness. So let's see where the fairness is. Let's see whether or not these guys will actually live like we have to, some of us, in that way. And I think, the reality at the moment is I feel very strongly about it. On my political show that I do, we've been ranting about it for 2 days now. And we have over 1 billion views across the world on it. So we will still see exactly, what this government does. But I've already written to my local MP to ask her how shameful is she going to be. So, the cudgels are out. My Scottish blood is roaring away, and I shall be going over Hadrian's Wall and demanding recompense from these bandits who call themselves politicians.
Yeah, good for you, Ian.
Wow.
Yes, I'll join forces with you on that one, because I mean, with the state pension versus the minimum wage, well, the state pension annually works out at just under half of the minimum prescribed wage to give a sustainable standard of living. So pensioners are expected to survive on less than half of that. And the benefit of this heating allowance, which is so important up here, I mean, you can get temperatures down minus 15 centigrade, which is going to be about 4 or 5 Fahrenheit. And, pensioners are expected to survive that. And it's a case of they either eat or they heat, and there's nothing in between. And even eating is pretty frugal. So, and all the other household bills still have to be paid. And there's a lot of other benefits being hit as well. I mean, before they got into power, in the manifesto, they were saying, oh, yes, we will not raise taxes. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're not going to raise taxes for the working man. But that means then that the pensioners who are not working, they're fair game. They just didn't happen to mention that. They forgot to mention that in their manifesto. So it's a bit of a shame. There we go.
Well,
So
I really
I'll have to
applaud what you're doing there, Ian. We have team members who actually were broadcasting before we start. They show me they've got blankets and hot water bottles, and they're literally freezing in their own homes. So,
yeah.
This wall of shame is an excellent idea. And I remember last year it was pretty tough, but it sounds like this year they've taken all funding away. So is the money going to people who haven't paid in?
Well, there's the budget coming out in October, and yesterday, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, hung his head in slight shame in the Rose Garden at Number 10 when he was giving his talk to the people that they'd selected. In actual fact, were apprentices and the low paid. So I think big mistake choosing them when he hangs his head and says, well, the budget in October is going to be really, really tough, or worse to that effect. So we have got to see what that's going to throw at us as well, and see how many other things he's going to take away from us. So there we go. Oh, the joys.
Yeah.
Come to Britain. It's a lovely place to live. Just bring plenty of money with you and give it all to the government, because they'll take it off you anyway.
You better bring a space heater and a huge, long, warm coat too, as well. So,
Yes.
Ian, best wishes with you on that initiative.
Yes.
Are there any royal updates that either Ian or Simon would like to share? Maybe Diane has one. I don't know. I don't want to count you out, Diane.
There's a lot of royal updates. I mean, I was amused to look today again at Prince Andrew, he who has blotted his copybook in America as well as Britain. And there's this long-standing argument right now on what to do with him, because he lives at a place called the Royal Lodge at Windsor, which is this huge property. Now, I didn't know till recently, in fact, I only really sort of found out about it, had it confirmed today, that Andrew pays £250 a week to rent the property that's worth something in the region of several £1 million. And apparently the Queen told him that she gave him this property in the first place, that he had to look after the property, and that the rent would then be £1,000 a month. I think at that time, if I remember rightly, Andrew was probably getting from the royal purse 2 or 3 million a year. But the place has fallen into disarray, to say the least, and £400,000 worth of repairs are needed to actually keep the place standing up again. And so, first of all, King Charles has threatened to take away his 10 security system, main security system. So what are they going to do about that? But now he suggested that, and this is what made me smile as well, is that Charles has now suggested that Andrew takes Wood Farm, which is this small holding farm on the Sandringham estate. Well, you know, the thought of seeing Andrew on a tractor or mucking out the pigs or something might amuse a lot of people, both in Britain and overseas as well. So we will see what is happening next. It's an ongoing saga, this one. And then the next story is that William and Kate are on holiday at the moment, and they've given up part of their holiday because today is the start of the Paralympics in Paris. And they've sent special wishes to the Paralympians, the British Paralympians in Paris, attending the Paralympic Games. And it's hoped this time that they may beat their previous record. Well, there's a 2-horse race really for the Paralympics between the United States, you'll be pleased to know, and Great Britain. So the last time the United States won by a whisker of how many medals they actually got, and United Kingdom was a very, very close second. So again, William and Kate today, that's the news story from William and Kate today, because they, in reality, wanted to break away from the holiday just to ensure that the Paralympics and the people participating in the Paralympics, of which we've got a huge team out in Paris now, really win well. And then we move on from that to Princess Anne. Now, Princess Anne, as you know, had an accident recently, and she's only just recently got back into working again. And so she was at a meeting the other day for Riding for the Disabled, a charity that she helps to support as well. Someone in the crowd, she heard sort of whispering to people, and they were looking at each other, how Princess Anne was dressed. And then she overheard, and someone said to her, "Ma'am, you don't really look like a princess the way you're dressed, do you?" Now, she thought for a second, and she said, "Thank God for that." So, I think in reality, I think she's one of these people who doesn't take, she takes her royal duties very seriously, but she takes her dress sense probably not quite so seriously either as well. And then we have Meghan and Harry. So Meghan and Harry, the ongoing saga in America with Meghan and Harry as well. And basically, they haven't been invited, as Simon will know as well. They haven't been invited this year to Balmoral. And everybody is seeing it as a snub by the royal family on Harry and Meghan at the same time. And I think Harry is quite dismayed at this because he's made comments about Balmoral, and he calls Balmoral simply paradise. So it just shows the agony that both Harry and Meghan are facing in America at the moment. And I think, as I keep on saying, royal family, for goodness sake, get yourselves sorted out, because, the people of Britain, apart from going to be freezing cold this year, we want to see a united royal family in all shapes and purposes, both sides of the Atlantic. And then finally, Harry is going to go shortly to a trip to New York in September, and it's to go to the United Nations Assembly Higher Level and Climate Week, which he's very, very keen on as well. So I think, and it's being called another example of how Harry could actually highlight the values of the royal family in America at the same time. So that's really a roundup of the royal news as we speak. And it's some of the things that I hope you find interesting. Back to you.
Thank you, Ian. Before we bring our other esteemed colleagues back, what can people expect to learn on Royal Breaking News? Will there be other stories that are out there as well?
There's going to be some fantastic stories. There's all sorts of things. You know, all my sort of contacts in America were waiting for another story to break, and I gave a clue, and I can only give a clue to it at the moment. But from what we hear, from what I hear, there's going to be a big announcement about William and Kate very shortly. But that's the only clue I can give you at the moment.
Woo, stay tuned. I love it. We're on the edge of our seats over here, even though I'm standing. So thank you for that Royal Roundup. Well done. Diane, anything you would like to share before we go over to Simon and his part 2 of his presentation?
Ian, that was all fascinating what you shared with us. And it would be lovely to see the royal family united. And it's really sad. I'm still very sad about it. But over here, we don't really understand the way it's all working out. We keep thinking, well, if Harry and Meghan would just go back, then maybe the family could reunite. But I don't see that happening either.
I think the problem is that security and all sorts of things now. You see, you know, I go back, obviously, you know, with 5 generations of the royal family, but I also go back to a scenario in 2016 where at that time I supported Prince William. And Prince William was very concerned that paparazzi photographers were taking hot shots at of the children when they were playing in a local park. And basically what they were doing was that as the children had arrived, they would open up the boots of their cars. I think you would call them the trunk of your cars in America. And they would put out their long lenses to try and take photographs. Well, that had 2 effects, because there's only a small team of security that work with the children and whoever is with them at the time. And so that means then one of that security at least has to go and investigate what are those cylindrical shapes coming out of the trunks or the boots of cars. And so that causes an incredibly large security problem for them, first of all. But second of all, even with the long lenses, what these photographers are actually showing is really everything. So they're showing the faces of the security people, the faces of the children. They're showing exactly where these children are as well. So it's almost like a manual for ISIS to actually, you know, really take these children out if they wanted.
I think.
So it was a massive problem. So then, so that's why, you know, Harry and Meghan are worried about the security of their children as well, because nobody really sees these photographs either. And there could be a price, excuse me, a price on the head of getting these children photographed as well by this paparazzi.
Crazy.
When I joined Prince William at that time, in sort of trying to ban this, and I went on national television, all the major TV channels to do with that, I started getting death threats.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So the reality is, you know, that's probably one of the main reasons why Harry and Meghan do not want to risk the lives of their children. But also at the moment, you see, that there needs to be some compatibility again. You know, I get it. They haven't done everything right. But on the other hand, they haven't done everything wrong either. You know, and I think it now comes to a time where common sense needs to prevail, good common sense, and the reality that decisions have to be made that bring them back together. I think they would make tremendous ambassadors for the royal family in America as well, you know, and so, you know, like Edward VIII and Mrs. Simpson went to Bermuda during the war, and they became, the ambassadors out there. So I can see all sorts of opportunities, because I think basically at the moment, obviously, we're looking at the next general election in America as well, and I'm talking about it every week now on our political shows. And so we at the end of the day want to see good relations between America and Britain. And I think in one way, if it was done properly, then Harry and Meghan would be a major asset as well.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And of course, we want the best for the royal family and the best for everyone in the UK, as well as the States and all over the world. It's time for Simon's presentation. It's a 4-part presentation, One Man's War. Today is part 2. Simon, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Definitely, I'm ready. There, yes. Last week I started on reading a very special diary, a very special document, which is being hailed as actually a really important document now. And today is part 2. If you missed last week's one, well, you can still catch up on YouTube with episode 130 of the United Kingdom News and Culture. But here we are today, so I shall continue. And it was a terrible time they had there. But anyway, over the next couple of weeks, I'm reading from the diary of one soldier who fought at Cassino. The diary was written on whatever scraps of paper that came to hand, and it was written in the battlefield itself. The soldier was Major James Macdonald MC. He was my father. So here we go in part 2. Lake Trasimeno, to the south of Arezzo, in June 1945. Day 1, moved up to take over from 78th Division. Battle was mobile, so pushed on through. Day 2, reached a town and saw Germans digging in ahead, so planned a night attack. B Company went first, D Company second, A Company third, as C Company was disbanded. B and D companies had 2 objectives, and A Company had to push through and support success afterwards. B and D companies got there, and after wading a river and much cursing, we bashed on. Did 2.5 miles and stopped for the night. Day 3, pushed on at 6:30 hours in the morning. Ordered A Company and tanks. B and D companies covered fire and half miles without any opposition. Day 4, pushed on down the river to one bridge left. Once over that, we were on the main road to Arezzo. Ordered A Company and tanks and B and D companies. Got down to the river, jocks riding the tanks, me leading tanks and a jeep, some procession. Bridge was being very heavily shelled. Tanks wouldn't cross to commanding officer, wireless A Company to go on foot instead. We did this, and only half the company got over wading. So I left the other half under Lieutenants Melvey and Van Sale to follow us and tanks when they got over okay. We, i.e. half the company, pushed on down the main road and contacted a solitary German whom we took prisoner. We got quite a bit of information out of him and consequently sent a recce patrol on for about 400 yards under Corporal Farmer. The patrol hit trouble and sadly only one man came back. The remainder were taken prisoner. We were then attacked on 3 sides, but hung on to a big farmsteading and gave as good as we got. Very exciting. Meantime, commanding officer came in the wireless and asked our position. I gave it, and he replied, it wasn't possible, and we must be on the wrong road. Rechecked with the compass signs, but we were okay, and he was on the wrong road. Well, there we go. Just before dusk, he arrived with B and D companies, and the other half of A Company, who had also run into trouble and started to straggle in. Commanding officer got wounded, and Jock Stewart took over. Some day. Lots of casualties and bags of sweat lost. Day 5, we advanced, riding in tanks. Ordered D and B and A companies, mine to be in reserve again, hit a hellish concentration of shells, and Jock threw in a 3-company attack. A Company left, B Company centre, and D Company right. We carried off a picture attack with tanks and consolidated in a farmsteading. Having been taken about 10 prisoners, 6 casualties ourselves from mortaring. Day 6, A long 10-mile advance, no actual contact with the enemy, but hit a very heavy shelling just before dusk, so we laid up for the night. Day 7, the Royal West Kent Regiment passed through us, but A Company went with them to protect some Royal Engineers mending a bridge. Jock Stewart was wounded. Pat Lindsay took over a battalion. Day 8, patrol by Lieutenant Van Sale showed Germans in San Patriazzo. Battalion advanced. Ordered D, A, and B companies half a mile from San Pancreazzo and received heavy shelling, mortaring, and Neville Weber and small arms fire. Captain David Brown was killed outright. Douglas, Duncan, and Mike Huch were all wounded. Wouldn't have been able to get out of it if it hadn't been for my men I had to look after. The Germans were only 40 yards from us, and we used to chuck rifle grenades at each other all the time. Day 9, Pat Lindsay was wounded, so Ian McRae took over the battalion. He broke down, so I took it over till Major Pollock McCall came up from the rear echelon. Back up the hill again to the company, one amusing incident, I felt. It was misty, and Sergeant Grant came to one and said he thought he would hear Jerry moving towards us. I dashed up, and 6 of us with Bren grunts crawled into the scrub. Sure enough, Jerry was on the move, crawling and whispering and making quite a noise. When he got close enough, I gave a silent signal, and all 6 of us stood up and raked him with Bren fire. Out of the 10 coming on, we killed 6 and wounded 2, and the other 2 others were escaping. Ration party had a dreadful job getting up the hill, but made it, and glory be, brought mail. May 1945 was the big month to crack the Germans in Italy. It was all hinging on the fall of Cassino. The big plan was for the Poles to capture the monastery and 4 Division to outflank the town and cut off the Germans' retreat. It worked. My capacities varied: 1, tank liaison officer; 2, signals officer; 3, intelligence officer; 4, adjutant. Finally doing all 3 last jobs as the AM officers were all knocked out. Our opponents were again the 1st Para Division, the Hellcats of Crete, and this time we gave them hell okay. Day 1, left assembly area and tank with 22 section and 2 brigade signals. Got down to the edge of the river in dark, but the bridge wasn't complete, so we lay in the shelter of the bank and brewed up. The brew was blown over by shelling, much to our disgust. Infantry lying cursing at the delay in the ditches. Just after light, got a signal to advance, and a tank rumbled over the bridge with the infantry. On the far side, the damn thing stuck, and before getting away again, was hit by a shell and caught fire. Bailed out with the wireless and got into another tank. Cut up infantry and followed Graham Smith and A Company into attack. Losses appeared to be heavy as the shelling was intense, but number of German dead was terrific, and the prisoners were rolling in as well. Signals officer Henry K. McJohnson just beat me to shooting 4 Germans. It was okay potting at them from out of the tank turret till I found some sniper was potting at me. Then I kept my head down a bit. Just later I saw Henry hit, so I informed the commanding officer and took over his job. Attack was successful and we consolidated for the night. Fierce battle going on the other flank with the 2 Royal Fusiliers and Royal West Kent Regiment. A shell right amongst us at battalion headquarters killed the pipe major and wounded 3 others and upset a brew of tea again. Curse it. Day 2, daybreak, advance again, and again in a tank. Very misty, the visibility only 5 or 10 yards. Well, the tanks lost the infantry and we called a halt. Mist cleared, and there were 10 tanks, 2 carriers, an artillery officer, RFT, 1 jeep, all in a cornfield, with Germans all around. We shot our way out. On the way, the tank squadron leader was killed by a sniper, but our tank got him, the sniper I mean, with a 75. Just then we were hit by an 88, caught fire, and I had to bail out into another tank. Dead lucky, twice running like that. Lost infantry all day, so left the tanks and took the carrier forward at night to where the battalion was surrounded. Caught them up at dusk as the Germans withdrew slightly. D Company was wiped out, except for about 12 men and 1 officer. Major Fergus Coates was killed, and John Forbes, Henry Mackay Johnson, Alan Gillis, Ben Leslie, all badly wounded. I then took on Adjutant 1 officer and the signals officer. Day 3. Well, lay up all day. Shelling was very heavy. Hard battles going on both flanks to come up level with us. We were 500 yards ahead of the 8th Army, shelling casualties. Day 4, we advanced 09:30 hours, slow but steady as Jerry had pulled back a bit, found lots of loot and lots of dead and wounded Germans. Mostly fell to the Poles, and we belted into Casino itself, taking many prisoners. One prisoner, a doctor, stated that he'd attended to Bert Mathers, who was captured in the town 3 weeks before, and that he'd gone back okay. This subsequently proved to be correct on research. Day 5, lay up resting. Day 6, advanced at 0200 hours at about 2.5 miles and lay up in an area of farmhouses all day and continuous shelling. Day 7, advanced up railway to the left of Route 6 towards Pedimonte, chased the Germans and consolidated level with Pedimonte, which was holding out against the Poles and 2 Royal Fusiliers. Day 8, lay up, shelling, several minor casualties. Day 9, advanced half a mile. Roy MacArthur was killed, many casualties in C Company, 8th Indian Division took over, and we moved back for a rest. We lost 380 men and officers killed, wounded, and missing in 9 days. Very heavy. I'm glad it's all over. Went to A Company as 2 Company commander. Day 10, same position, no excitement, sent out 2 patrols who reported Jerry still in the same position. Rumour of relief, but no luck. Day 11, 2 Royal Fusilier officers arrived today. They're relieving us tonight. Gosh, we do need a rest. Can't keep our eyes open. Relief at midnight and 3 days glorious rest and a refit in Monte San Savino. Bags of sleep and vino. There we have part 2. Part 3 will continue on in our next episode in 132.
Wow.
It was powerful.
It was really tough. I mean, the Battle of Casino, the soldiers there were sort of regarded and called sometimes the D-Day Dodgers. But in actual fact, when it came to the bloodiest battle, Casino, we lost, the Allied forces lost 55,000 men at Casino. It was an absolute massacre. The Germans only lost 20,000 men, but we still won. Resilience.
Resilience, right.
Simon, how does it feel to be sharing this information? I mean, knowing that it's your dad, is it hard to control your emotions? I mean, obviously you're very professional, but
it's very difficult. I mean, this is one of the most difficult things I've had to do, presentations I've had to do on television at all. So all these 4 episodes are really going to be quite stirring. I think the last one is going to be mixed emotions of relief that I've done it, because it is so important that this document is made much more public than it's been. I've got the diary here, and it's just scraps of paper, as I said earlier. That was what came to hand, and but all written by his hand. So it was a tough life. I mean, I wonder. I mean, today would our youngsters do this today? Would they be capable of doing it today? That generation were very, very special people. So yes, a lot of respect for all the veterans of the Second World War on all sides, not just ours, but on the enemy as well, because they all had to put up with hell and high water.
That's so
absolutely.
true.
And just to point out to our audience, in case they missed it, these diary pages were actually written by your father.
These are from the actual diary, from some of the bits of paper from from the diary itself, and he drew several maps as well, just to sort of illustrate and remind himself later on of it. And the thing that really got me, because reading this out, I can hear my father's voice in my mind as I'm reading it out, because I remember him reading it to me before he handed it to me and said, this is for you. So it's a great legacy to have. And the copy of it is in the Regimental Museum now in Perth, in the Black Watch Museum. And they were so delighted to get the copy of this, because it is a very special document. And I'm very proud that that it was my father, and he wrote it. And his style of writing was all right.
Yes, it's very nice, very nice, and you should be
Considering
proud.
the conditions he was writing it in.
We're
And
quite honored that
you're
you're
writing a
sharing
book
with
about
us.
this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, it is. I'm doing a book on this called One Man's War. It's taking a long time to do because I've got to fill in a lot of other areas apart from the diary itself. But the format of the book will be on one page will be the transcript, like I've read, and the other page will be photograph of the actual diary page relevant to it. So it means the reader has the option then of reading the actual handwriting. Some of it I found quite difficult. His handwriting was nearly as bad as mine. But they have the option of reading the actual handwriting or reading the typed out script. And I think reading the actual handwriting really does take you into the whole scenario, and you really get the feeling of it there. You've got the atmosphere of it all.
Absolutely. It makes it so real. It brings it home, and you think that it was your dad. I could start crying. So, but thank you again for sharing it and for doing this 4-part series. We are going to go over to On This Day. What do you have for us, Simon?
Well, there we go. Yes, it's on this day time again. My goodness. Well, in 1830, the first American-built locomotive, the Tom Thumb, races a horse-drawn car from the Stockton and Stoke Stagecoach Company from Baltimore to Ellicott Mills. Now, let history record that due to mechanical problems, the horse won. Well, there we go. Yeah, Houston, we have a problem, I think springs to mind there. 1963, Martin Luther King delivers his I Have a Dream speech, addressing the march in Washington for Jobs and Freedom Civil Rights march at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. 2009, the British pop rock band Oasis split up, Noel Gallagher citing the inability to be with his brother Liam. Yesterday, they announced, in fact, they've got back together again. So they're laying odds on that it's going to split up all over again. But just now, I mean, this is the hot ticket. They're doing a series of shows, live concerts, and they reckon that these tickets are just going to be selling out so quickly. So Oasis, I mean, they were from Manchester, and they're quite hardcore as far as a band goes and so on. There's a lot of trouble past in their family. Anyway, moving on. Birthdays today. Where are we now? 1814. Peter Fraser is the New Zealand 24th Prime Minister from 1940 to 1949. He was born in Hillfern in Scotland. So we get about, even down to New Zealand. In 1938, still on the political scene, Paul Martin, 21st Prime Minister of Canada, was born in Windsor, Ontario. He's 85 today. Happy birthday, Paul. In 1965, Shania Twain, Canadian Grammy Award-winning country music singer. That don't impress me much. And Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Not me, it's her song, honest. Born in Windsor, Ontario. She's 58 today. So all the birthdays seem to be in Ontario. And as a numerologist, I think you'd find out that with Paul Martin being 85, and here we have reversing it with Shania Twain, 58. One goes back to the other. So deaths. 1903, Frederick Law Olmsted, the American writer and landscape architect. He designed Central Park in New York. He died age 81. 1943, Boris III, the Tsar of Bulgaria, dies of a heart failure at 49, likely caused by poisoning, but by whom? Well, that remains a mystery. 1995, Carl Ronald Gillis, the British cartoonist, Carl Ronald Giles, British cartoonist of the Daily Express, dies aged 78. Giles' cartoons, I think, are the funniest and the best. I mean, Giles is a legend in his own lifetime and continues on as a legend now. The lifeboats, Royal National Lifeboats Institution, bring out a series of Christmas cards every year with the Giles cartoon on it, and it's just fabulous. And it was fantastic. Giles cartoons, absolutely tremendous. So there we go. So that's me rabbiting on all day again. And that's on this day. See what's on this day next year.
I have to tell you that Shania Twain, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. I loved that song so much that when my daughter was in high school, the choir needed to have a fundraiser. So they asked all the parents who knew how to sing to put on a performance. And we raised quite a bit. But anyway, I performed that song and shocked the devil out of my daughter because she didn't know it. I was on stage in a sexy dress cut all the way down to the back.
Woo!
Like, oh, we have it on film.
Diane, we'd love to see that. Why don't you share that with us for our next show?
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic.
Anyway, I love Shania Twain.
My dad loved her too.
Last week we had birthday was Kim Catterall, which
yes.
I'd met her over dinner in Scotland a few years ago, and so on. It's quite a character. So so we'll see who it is next week.
Absolutely. Fantastic. All right, we've got to close out, so let's just go around quickly. Diane, what would you like to leave our audience with today?
There's a lot of political things going on. Everybody be respectful of everybody's thoughts and wishes and be kind.
Thank you very much. Simon?
Right. Well, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, only then will the world know the power of peace.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I love that.
That's my profound one for today.
That is definitely profound. Thank you. Mr. Turner?
I just hope that we can build better relations and ongoing relations now with America. I think, we need America, and hopefully America will enjoy needing us as well in the future. So I look forward to a positive future. Certainly from a political standpoint, this has got to be the most exciting election I've actually seen in America in years. I mean, every night, I have to stay up late because obviously your programs are 5 hours behind. So I'm up sometimes at 2, 3 in the morning just listening to see what is going to go on and happen next. So, it's a crazy one this time around, and I love it. I love it. Oh, if it only could go on for a year rather than another 60 odd days, I would just adore it. But anyway, it keeps me work.
Take it.
Yeah, I can verify it's true because he's texting me at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I'm like, what are you doing? You're still up at this time. But, all right. Well, thank you all for being here. We have to close out, so I appreciate you all. Thank you. All right. As we close out today, I just have a few announcements for those of you who don't know. Our next show is Podcast Maestro with Ann Scotland. And even though my name is there, I will not be on the show. We also have a brand new show, which is on every single day, Food and Femininity, with your host, Maggie, the substitute teacher. She is an incredible beacon of light when it comes to social media. She has an enormous following. And not only is she doing a show every day, but she also does a short on YouTube every day as well. And of course, we also have Royal Breaking News, which you'll be able to watch later today. That's on 5 days a week, so please do tune in. And we will also have today the Scottish Connection with Simon Macdonald. And following that, we will have How to Not Suck at Networking with Ashley Owens, who was my business coach for years, followed by Next Level Coaching starring Robert J. Moore. And our new show starting today, is Intentional Productivity Tips. We are thrilled to have Megan Sandwick joining our team. So that's all for now. Thank you so much. We have about 55 shows. I can never remember the exact number. And we're adding some new ones on as well. So thanks for being part of this journey. Please do subscribe to our channels on YouTube, USA Global TV and Radio, and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. We'll see you all again soon. Stay tuned for Ann's show. Bye.